Hey guys, this is Ress and Nique, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. And today we are basically talking about the downfall of intimacy and meaningful relationships. Kind of like the title says, it seems like we're caught up in this culture of let me prove I'm the one who can care less when it comes to bonds and relationships. So there's a couple of reasons why we brought up this topic. One, both of us kind of knows this is a topic that is being brought up more in our everyday lives, but also I was on like creator insights on TikTok and I was like looking at all the ones they were recommending. They're like, this is what your followers are looking for. This is what your topics your followers are searching and liking. And while it did not say the downfall of intimacy, it was a lot of like how to pretend you're over somebody. It was a lot of like how to play it cool. It was a lot of topics like that. And I'm just like, yo, what is going on? Because also, our demographic, like anytime I check our stats, our demographic is usually like ages 29 to like 42. And I'm like, y'all, why are we still playing games around not wanting to show people that we care? Definitely remember being in the stage in my 20s. And I will even say, like, I'm recognizing it in my 30s that it is a thing. And I hate that for us. I hate that for our culture.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought that by 30, everything would be okay. We would.
Man, so many things I thought would be better by 30 that unfortunately I just learned. I just was like, oh, this is a thing. Ha, I probably should have known this by now. But no, no. I think when we're talking about again the decline of like intimacy, I think the first thing that we have to address is that there seems to be an appeal when it comes to promoting detachment. And I think I don't know, I feel like our culture one promoted heavily in pop culture is promoted heavily kind of like you a sucker if you show your feelings, you a sucker if you what you mean you like him. Okay, leave him on red for a couple hours so you don't seem thirsty. So you have the ball in your court and blah blah blah. And like here's the thing, is that actually getting us to what we want? Because it really doesn't feel like it.
No, I don't feel like it is at all. And it's just like, who can be like the most mean or the most passive aggressive? And it's just like, what are we really getting out of this? But everybody being confused and nobody moving to the next level. When
Yeah.
in fact, in your heart and in your mind, you really want to move to the next level. But I have to play these games. I don't test back. I don't want to feel too thirsty. Girl, if you like that man, you like that man. If you like that woman, you like that woman. Let it be known instead
Yeah.
of fighting the feeling for what? I think you're still losing either way. Like, if you
Yeah.
like them more than they like you and it doesn't work, you might quote unquote lost, but you lose so much more by playing this hard role or just trying to make sure I can get my detachment in order at the beginning so I don't get to know them. So it could be great at the end when they leave me. Like, what?
And I want to just throw in there, not to be confused, if you have an anxious attachment style, like, yes, still work on controlling that. That is not to say I'm an anxiously attached person. And so I like to be a bugaboo. I'm going to pop by their job. I'm going to ask them a million questions. I'm going to call them nonstop. And you don't give me attention 24 hours a day, I'm going to freak out. And no, 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 no. That is not what we're saying at all. No, you still work with your therapist on that. Okay. But it is going back to saying, like Nick said, of if you do like a person, like what is the problem with telling them? Why? Well, let me play it cool now so I can play it crazy later. Like, no, no, because I really think this is stopping a lot of our progress. And if you listen to even 5 episodes, probably two. If you listen to 2 episodes, you know, I have struggled with detachment. That's definitely a thing for me. That's definitely a thing I have struggled with, something I struggled with since I was a child. But like, it's something I try to work away from, not try to promote and try to move towards. A lot of times when I talk about it in past tense because it was a huge thing for me. For me, I use detachment as a coping skill. It was my favorite coping skill. It was my favorite thing because for a long time, for me, it felt like the my options seemed to be take it too far or shut all the way down. I really struggled in the past with moderation. And I feel like I'm doing a really good job at it now, doing that moderation part. And I'm saying that to say, though, when I really, especially in romantic relationships, but also in friendships, used a lot of detachment, it was really lonely. it really, really was not a fun time. I think sometimes I did promote it like it was a fun time. I think sometimes I really thought it was a fun time, but a lot of times it ended in the same cycle for me where it was like, okay, I'm gonna get this lineup of people, and then I'm gonna just, I don't have feelings for you. I have feelings for you. Let me show you real quickly. Play with me if you want to. You will never hear from me again. Block. And I should have blocked some of them harder. If I'm being 100% honest, there's definitely some people where I kind of look back and like, you know what, he should have got the OU. But for the most part, um, when I look back at that, I'm like, dang, there's a lot of things I really messed up. There's a lot of people I probably hurt and probably got them sitting on somebody's therapy couch because of how I did things. And here's the thing, not just them, but like, dang, that also created a lot of hurt and pain for me in the long run. Even if I wasn't feeling it then, I felt it later. And I know me right now as a woman in my 30s, I crave vulnerability. I want to be vulnerable so bad with somebody. I really, really like the friendships and the partnerships that I have where I can show up and I can be vulnerable. Again, it's still kind of hard. It's still kind of hard. I definitely still have my moments where I'm like, they gonna think I'm soft. You messing up your image. You don't cry. You tough. And then I have to, I have to process that. I'm like, girl, why? Why are we going back to that? And I have to work myself out of it. But in the long term, like it did me so much more harm than it did me good. It did not protect me. If anything, it kept me, because I think when we're talking about detachment, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, it is used to protect ourselves. But it's
Mhm.
like, while you think you're protecting yourself from pain, you're also protecting yourself from happiness. You're also blocking yourself from experiencing joy, experiencing growth, experiencing compassion, experiencing what it's like to work something out with a person. And this is going to sound stupid because, again, I was a person who was big on like, you mess up, I'm done. You block, you can't
Yeah.
even contact me.
But can I say, going back to like the detachment part, because I feel like I'm kind of new to this detachment stuff. Because when I was engaged to my late fiance,
Mhm.
it was like I was vulnerable with him. I was all vulnerable, and it works. And like you were saying, I miss vulnerability. You miss vulnerability. I miss vulnerability. I miss just being like, this is safe for me. We're gonna talk because it's so much more freeing to have
Mhm.
that person there and have that person that talk these things out. So it's like I was with him, then I lost him, and then I try to get back out there, and not everybody detached as hell. It is not the same. It is not the same from 7 years ago. Like even 7 years
Mhm.
ago, like I know we're all in this detachment or hurt them before they hurt you thing, but like even back, and that's not that far ago. That's not that many years ago. But even back then, it wasn't like this. So it's just like it's very hard for me to adjust to this new quote unquote normal because I have been dating and it's like a repeated cycle of detachment. I'm not opening up to you because the last person really hurt me. So I cannot open up to you. You're gonna hurt me too. I'm like, bruh, that was 3 years ago. Like,
If I have to talk to one more man that is almost 40 that wants to start off with, yeah, but it's gonna be hard for me to open up because Susie, I dated her in middle school. She did me wrong. Sir, you have a 20-year-old child. I need you to do better. I need you to practice. But yeah, no, you're right. Because when you going out there, yeah, it seems like everybody is just so completely detached and they want you to jump through hurdles to get basic, like, hey, pull and take, give and take.
they just want to vent
Mhm.
about everything in their past, but they still don't. They told you all these things, but they haven't given you a chance to open up because they don't really want to get to know you because they're scared or they don't want to get hurt. So it's like really confusing. It's really confusing. And it's just like, because I want to be vulnerable and I will. I mean, it's hard for me to open up all the way. Nobody really probably knows me fully.
Mhm.
But for the most part, in my dating, I say everything. Like I say, like I lost my LA fiance. I say everything. Like this is my troubles with dating. And it's just like, okay, your turn. Are we gonna reciprocate like this this
Mhm.
energy? Like, are we gonna reciprocate? Like, and then it's just like, well, whatever happens, it happens, I'm just going with the flow. Can I get some? Can I get some? Motivation, so drive. I don't know what the flow is. What's the flow, brother man? What's the flow?
And you know what's crazy though? I sometimes I wonder if it's because of my line of work, but I'm like, no, I feel like this is something I had even in the past, like when I was very young. Men want to open up to me so badly. And I one of the issues like I feel like I have with dating is no men open up very, very much. And I think some of the issues I have had is like I'm trying we're looking at being together as a couple, not me being your therapist.
Mhm.
And so I feel like I'm getting a lot of like, yeah, this is what happened. This is da 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 da. But when I'm talking about, at least on my side for the vulnerability, it is more so like, okay, you're telling me all your pain. Hey, are you willing to do the work to move past it? No. And I'm like, no, that's a vulnerability. I want your vulnerability in action. So yes, I'm hearing the vulnerability about your past, about your pain, about your so forth. But the type of vulnerability I'm talking about now is okay, but I like you. And so I'm willing to do this thing, even though, yeah, I got a fear of getting cheated on because my last girl cheated.
Mhm.
And yeah, I am willing to do the work and move past. Like I got some mama issues. I got some mama things. Because y'all know, I say this all the time in the episode. The way I attract men with mother issues, I think it's the breast. I really think it's the breast. I'm trying to tell you something about big breasts and men with mother issues. I'm sure if I Google it, Freud has a whole book on it. I know that has to be a thing because the way they are attracted to me. Um, but like, okay, but are you willing to work through those things? Like, I'm not trying to be your surrogate mother. Are you willing to work through those things? Are you willing to give me that vulnerability in action, which is I'm going to work past my fears of commitment. I'm willing to try to do the work to work past, my fear of being played. I'm going to trust that again, because a part of vulnerability is trust. I'm going to trust that you are who you told me you are. And because I like who you're showing me you are, that means I am going to step in and I'm going to trust this thing. I want the vulnerability in action. I'm getting all the vulnerability in words. I'm finding all your family history. I'm
Mhm.
sending out referrals for your mama, for your sister, for y'all group family therapy session. But what about your actions?
I think that's the same kind of with me. Like, yeah, I get that too. But it's just about like every single bad thing that ever happened in their life. And then it was just like, but if you go back and review, sir, do you know anything about me? Like, do you know anything about what makes me sad? What
Yeah.
triggers me? And it's crazy because I can name each point off and they don't even realize they told me everything. I said, yeah, you told me
Mhm.
everything. I mean, is that the definition of them still being vulnerable? They're vulnerable enough to let their stuff out, but why are they not vulnerable enough to take in our stuff? It's
I think vulnerability is a two-way street.
yeah.
But I also think you make a very good point. I do think sometimes people confuse vulnerability with openness.
Hmm.
And I think just because you're open doesn't necessarily mean that you're vulnerable. I think vulnerability requires openness, but openness does not necessarily mean that you are vulnerable. Because like you said, you'll meet a lot of people, and we're saying guys because we date men, but like men are having this experience as well where people will sit there and tell you like all this stuff, but okay, now that you've told me all this stuff, kind of like you said, but are you willing to do some of the work to move past that stuff? Because that requires vulnerability. But also, like you said, now what about that equal exchange? Now, okay, because I think also part of vulnerability is there is a man who I know listens to this podcast that's probably like, first of all, hypocrite, because I didn't do not do a good job when I did when me and this person dated. But a part of that is also like, okay, I'm going to take in the things you're saying because I care about you. I know something that I definitely struggled with before. This is me owning up to it. Is like because I'm like, you gotta prove to me this is gonna last. I'm not gonna spend too much time paying too much attention to the things that you say because boy, I might be done with you next week. And that I think also has to be a part of that vulnerability. If I care about you, then I am going to not treat this like, well, this can expire at any minute. So I'm not really going to put too much time. I'm not going to put too much effort. I'm not really going to pay too much attention. No, that's a part of it too. Am I willing to put effort into you? Am I willing to pay attention to the things that you're saying that makes you mad, that makes you sad? Am I willing to do all of those things?
Yeah. And that's the part that and I think that goes back to detachment because it's
Mhm.
just like the openness. We're open, 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 but it's not doing the work to have like the two-way street when it comes to the vulnerabilities. So it's frustrating. It's very
Yeah.
frustrating for the person that actually wants a relationship or the person who want to actually get to know you and the person that's like ready.
Yeah.
Um, because those two people don't match. Those two people don't have match because this person is detached. It's like, I hear you. This is cool, but I know you're gonna probably leave me anyway. And this person's like, I'm open. I'm open. I'm open. I'm here. I'm here. Here.
Hmm.
So it's just a cycle. It's a repeated cycle. And just trying to find that person at the detachment era of their life and ready to be open. So it's crazy. It's crazy out here.
It
Um,
is. And I think when we talk about detachment, we have to cover like ghosting. We got to cover ghosting and breadcrumbing.
mhm.
Because I think when I think detachment, yes, I'm thinking of just about emotional detachment. That's a huge one. I am there physically. I am not paying attention to you emotionally. We go on dates regularly. We are hanging out regularly. I talk to you and so forth, but I am so emotionally detached. I'm not picking up on anything that you're saying. I'm not retaining information. I am not I'm not taking things seriously. I'm not taking your feelings seriously because at any moment you can hurt me or you can leave. And I don't want to risk the possibility of that. So if I always keep a little bit of myself detached, if that happens, I'll be good. But here's the thing, other people can pick up on that and decide, you know what? This person obviously does not like me. Even though I've asked them and they've said they have, they are not giving me the efforts. They are not doing the things. And so let me just leave. And then for the person that's attached, it reinforces it to them. See, because people always leave me, but you're doing the things that make people feel like, well, what's the point of staying?
The breadcrumbing is just like, and I feel like they can go back in their head and say, I did this, this, and this, and this. Yeah, you did, but you never opened up enough to go to the next level of anything. It's just like, since I took you on a date, since I was nice to you, since I maybe rubbed your feet, I showed you I liked you, but you're not opening up and being vulnerable and taking it in to see if it like you're not really doing the work to really get to know the person. It's just like the breadcrumbing or just being nice in doses and thinking that's enough. And then,
Mhm.
like you said too, I agree. It's gonna make the cycle continue because I'm like, she left me too, she left me too, he left me too, he left me, they left me too. It's because you keep doing the same thing over and
Yeah.
over and expecting different results, and that's just not how it works.
And here's the thing, there are some people out
Mm.
there that accept breadcrumbs, that accept those type of things. I don't know what to say about them folks, but with breadcrumbing, it's such a selfish act to be like, I'm going to give you a little bit of what you want. I hope that is enough. I'm fully capable of doing more. You got to earn that more. And here, I want to be very clear. This is not to say, oh, you give people stuff automatically, everything you got. No, but like, I don't think you should put people through battles to love you. I know me. I'm not trying to go through no battle to love you. The minute I'm talking to a guy and he's just like, but loving me is hard. And so, I need a shorty that's willing to go through it. I need a sir, you good. Bill, check. No, it's gone to him. Because no,
Mhm.
no, I ain't do nothing to you. I don't know what Shotty from third grade did. I'm so sorry she hurt you. I really feel like that's something that should be discussed between you and your therapist. That has nothing to do with me. Battle for what? For what? This is our second date. Why am I battling?
Or I need a ride or die. No, I'm dying.
Oh my gosh, I hate the whole ride or die rhetoric. I hate the whole ride or die rhetoric so much. Dying
Mm.
for what? Sir, we both have kids. Why are we out here? Anyways, yeah. But I mean, even going back to ghosting, because so this is something me and you talk about a lot because I actually am okay with ghosting. Like I really don't see ghosting as a bad thing. I know other people do, and I understand it for other people. It's just it does not affect me. I'm very big because I am an actions person. I'm huge on actions. Like I don't you can tell me whatever you want. Words of affirmations really don't move me. Like what are you doing? So for me, like, oh, you're pulling back. You're not calling. Oh, there's a change in how we used to talk on the phone every day. We used to go on dates on a weekly basis. I I ain't seen you in 2 weeks. You dry now on the phone. Cool. Got the hint. Pull back. I don't need to know the why. Like that's just how I look at things. I like to know the why when it comes to things about myself because then I can do something about it. I can do changes. To me, a lot of times when it comes to the why for other people, I really can't do it. Like if you think she got a mouth on her. I don't want to deal with that. What can I do about that? I mean, I guess I could change my communication style. Maybe. I don't. A lot of times when it's the why, or maybe like, oh, it wasn't exciting enough, or blah, 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 blah. Okay, then I guess I'm just not excited enough for you. Go to get somebody else. If I'm doing something that you feel like is not good for you, cool, separate, go away. But I will admit, I do think ghosting culture is like a big part of that detachment. Because I know there are people who take that very, very personal, and it encourages them to detach further because it's like, oh, okay, people are just ghosting, people are just doing that. Well, then let me start doing that back. And again, it just creates this entire cycle for folks.
I agree because I'm the type that doesn't like ghosting.
I'm not.
And I guess because I need it. And it's not because I need it to change anything about me for that person. Like, well, maybe I should have started doing this or that. But if it's something that's like really loud and disrespectful, and I didn't know I was giving off that energy, I would like to change the way that I operate in that way for the next person. Forget you if you don't want this anymore because I disrespect you in that way. I apologize, but I can go forth. I can go forth and like, I don't really like the way I handled that with that last person. Maybe I can change this. And for me also, as against the Pisces, I don't need that stuff in my chest or keeping me up at night, like just to twist me up. Like I can't just let it go. So somebody gotta know. You the one caused it, so you gonna know. Like you gonna know the reason why.
You
You
gonna
gonna know the
know?
reason why.
I'm gonna get a 7-minute voice message about it.
The copy and paste. Like this is what I said. This
She gonna get off her chest for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. I mean, and I guess the way I look at it though, like, because usually I think when I'm thinking ghosting, these are usually like newer situations. Like I know it happens, but I don't think ghosting happens when it's like long term committed relationships. That's not as common. I know it does happen, but I think usually, at least for me, when I'm thinking of ghosting, it's usually situationships. It's usually talking. It's usually like something more casual. And I gotta be honest, if it's something casual, you probably really don't know me that well, and so I really don't take your opinion that seriously. And one thing I will say about my friends is y'all will call me out on my bullshit. And so, like, those are the people that when y'all are telling me stuff about myself, I take it to heart. I'm like, okay, maybe I do need to change. Maybe I do need to do something different about it. And so I guess that's why I'm just like, do I really need to know the why? Yeah, I don't really think I need to know the why.
but I feel like in this culture,
Hmm.
situationships last for forever. So it's just like
If
we're
y'all
not
let them, if y'all let them, because I got a certain time
so
frame where I'm like, what we doing? And if you don't got an answer for me, hey, this was nice. Because if you can't make a decision by me by now, that probably means I'm not your person. That's literally how I look at situationships. If we have been doing this long and you still can't decide if you want to be with me or if you want me or if you're interested, then I'm just probably not your person. And then maybe I am and you regret that. And I go on to be the woman who got away. That sucks for you.
Mhm.
Hope you think about me on your deathbed. Be gone. That's how I look at it.
I get it. I get it. I get it. I guess you're right. But I just feel like it should still be like, I don't know. What I guess going back to like they know. Because if
Mhm.
they keeping you this long and you tell them like this isn't what I want, you keep doing it. They know why when you say I'm out, I
Yeah.
guess. But I guess this is getting off my chest then because you should know why.
Yeah. And I want to, this low key has nothing to do with the conversation here, but I just want to throw this gem out there for the women. So, like, I grew up, there was a point in my time for a couple years of my life, up until probably I was like 13, where I grew up with 7 boys in the house. Like, I had a lot of brothers. I had a lot, my mom collects people. And so, when everybody needed a place to live, our house was the house you would come live at. And between my brothers and also like my father, there's two things they really said that really stuck to me in regards to dating. One of the things my dad said that I really keep that in mind when I'm out here dating is that if a man really wants you, he wants to impress you. And he's like, so if you're ever dealing with a man and he is just like, it's like, yeah, he just be doing anything in front of me. Like, that man just, he was like, if you are the one the man really wants, he was like, I don't care how low, broke, depressed, or whatever, there's going to be a part of that man that always really wants to impress you. And he was like, so if you are with a man and it just feels like, do you care about the way I view you? You are probably not like his ideal person. And that has helped me and saved me so much drama where kind of like you talked about with like situationships where I'm out here dating and I'm having situations like, yeah, when you really sit and think about it and you're like, dang, has this man ever like tried to do anything to impress me? And think about even with yourself, when you really like someone, don't you want to be like, I really want to look good on this date? Don't you like, I really want to smell good because I know he gonna be kissing on my neck. I want my hair to smell good. Like you try to do those things. And think about the times that you were just bored and trying to convince yourself that he is a good man on paper. Maybe I can like him. Did you go really put in your efforts? Did you show it with your nail chip? Because it does not matter. That man lucky I'm showing up. That's how you act, all right? So really pay attention. Is that how they're acting towards you? Like she better be like she just happy I showed up. I ain't even gotta do nothing. Because that will save you a lot of efforts and not have these situationships that last for years. Years is too long for me. It should not take somebody years to know that I want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend. We're not even talking marriage. Marriage, that's another thing because that's a lifelong commitment. Relationships, you can literally just end it by saying, it's over, and then you're done. So then why is it taking you years? This is not something you're legally binded to. This is something you can always walk away from if you chooses. So the fact that we are doing this for how long and you still don't know, to me, that means like for myself personally, that means like I'm probably just not your person. And some people, oh, they have their trauma and they're dealing with this and they're dealing with that. I used to work jobs for over 8 years where I had to work with inmates. And sometimes I will work with these inmates and we'll be getting ready to get them released in a program or something. They needed a place to stay. Ain't got no job. They got ankle monitors. They got to show up to this program for like 6 hours a day. So they can't really work no more. Usually a lot for them, a lot of these people, they are at their lowest of low. When I tell you they could always give me a number to somebody, they
Every time.
always have somebody building a relationship with them. We give a lot of people excuses and so forth. All I'm saying is if they want to, they would. And for me, that's my mindset. And so some people are like, no, you got people more excuses, more blah, blah, blah. I have not been seeing it work out well for y'all. So I don't do that. If they want to, they would.
Every time. I agree. It's just like put the effort in and just show it. It's just like you can only give somebody that grace period for so long.
Yeah.
And learning from me actually being in these situations and how it never felt fulfilled me. It's like, girl, you could have did that a long time ago. A long time ago. So it's like, and it's so freeing to not waste that time and pay attention to those signs and listen to your intuition. Um, if you have, if you have great intuition, and I have great intuition. I just fight my intuition. We be fighting each other.
You have amazing intuition. I trust your intuition
Good.
like at the same level that I trust mine. And yes, you are always fighting. You're always fighting.
And then I go back and like, girl, I already told you that was about to happen. I knew
Yeah.
I should listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just listen to the intuition and just following us because it's just like how long is too long, and then you start having self-esteem issues sometimes, maybe like because they will do that to you forever. Then 5 seconds later, they in a whole nother relationship. It's like you could have not wasted so much of your time and energy in giving it and preserving that for the right person. So
Look, I had a situation or somebody where I was dating them and I love this person and I wanted to be with this person. But the truth of the matter is it did get to a point where like, hey, we should know though, is this is where we want to go. We should
mhm.
be able to say like, yeah, this is for sure what I want. And when I finally was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Do you know this man? And you know exactly who I'm talking about. Married my doppelganger like 6 months later. This girl had a similar figure to me. Girl, also, I normally wear my hair curly. Also, wear her hair was also a Gemini, and I was like, word, like that. Oh my gosh, that hurt me so bad. That hurt. Oh, that one took a minute to get over, but also it brought me back to that. But if he wanted to, he would. He would.
And that's okay. That is
And that's
okay.
okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. He wanted me, but with a different personality. I can laugh about it now. It's hilarious to me now. Oh gosh. But like, yeah, because if they want to, he would. But that also was another situation that really embedded that in me. Like, you know what? Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think even as we're talking about this, it's the emotional toll that happens. One of the things you said that I thought was like very important is, but are you even enjoying this? Like, as you are going through that, as we're talking about like trying to figure out, trying to be the person who cares the less, trying to be detached, trying to be the cool girl, trying to be like, yeah, it don't matter. I can just let that roll off. I'm not trying to get too much efforts. I'm not trying to be vulnerable. That takes emotional toll because humans, we are built for human connection. I don't care how
Yeah.
much you like to isolate. I don't care how much you're like, I'm a team me. I'm not a people person. I've talked about this several times on the show. Like, I'm a person who needs a lot of isolation time to function. I just do. Being with people is kind of draining for me. Don't get me wrong. I can turn on. I know how to turn my personality on. I have a job where I have to be very, very interactive with people emotionally, and so I know how to do that. But in my personal life, a lot of times, kind of like we talked about like introverts and extroverts. A lot of times when people think introvert, they think, oh, you're shy. But a lot of times when we're talking introverts, it is extroverts get energized by others, introverts get drained. And so a lot of times when you have introverts, they tend to be homebodies because interacting with folks drain them. And so they kind of have to retreat. And that is me hugely. I know how to interact with folks. I know how to get out there and so forth, but it drains me. And so I need a lot of time to retreat. I need a lot of time to calm down. Matter of fact, I was talking to Nique a couple of days ago and I was telling you, I've been going off on people and I was thinking it's because I'm overwhelmed. I've been having to deal with a lot of people. I was like, so now I'm just very tense and that's what I did. I just like, you know what? I'm going to take a day where I'm going to read. I'm gonna go on my porch. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna sit by the pool, and I'm gonna just be by myself. And then I felt back normal. I was able to then the next day not go off on folks for little things, because I was. So I get that, and I want to say that is valid if you are a person like I do need isolation time. Again, everything in moderation, as we talked about in the last episode. There needs to be a moderation with it, but but people still need human connection. We are biologically wired to be in connection with other people. And so when we're doing this detachment game, trying to keep ourselves safe from others, you're keeping yourself from the things that you biologically need. You need to interact with another person. It is
Mhm.
important to feel cared for and loved.
Yes.
And it takes a toll on you to keep having these experiences where I'm detached, you're detached, and we'll do this for a couple months, stop, repeat with a new person over and over and over again. That can start making you feel very unlovable. And I don't know if
Hmm.
y'all ever felt unlovable. I've had that experience and it feels so horrible to be like, so maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I'm just not lovable. Maybe I'm just not, I'm just here and everybody else gets to be loved. And I'm just, there's something about me that makes people be like, she is so funny and cool. Anyways, though, and move on.
Hmm.
That's a horrible feeling to have and carry. And when you keep practicing detachment, you're putting yourself in a cycle to keep having that feeling pop back up.
Yeah. And it is, like you said, it's a horrible feeling. But it's like, I think it's going back to like dating people that are detached, and it's just like you want vulnerability, just so you start questioning yourself. Whereas I feel like if I'm opening up and being vulnerable and I'm telling you this is what I need and this is what I don't need, and you just recognize that they're not doing it, you can say, okay, you can, for me, I have to voice it like, okay, I'm stepping back because you're not giving me these things, instead of being detached, like, okay, I'm about to pull back. I'm about to, because like matching energy does not work when that's not your personality to do. It's
Yeah.
draining. It's very draining. It's overwhelming. And I like to give love. I like to be
Yeah.
nice. And for me to have to be mean, or for me to be like, not send you little things because I know this is something that you need. Because I'm a little bit nicer with guys these days than I used to be, right? But not not doing something because not doing something because I'm like, is he even gonna appreciate this? Like, it's just like I have to get out of my personality to try to match energy. It's
Yeah.
just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then to still be left unlovable, it's just like you do get in those feelings, but it's like we have to realize like you get
Mhm.
what you want to give, be vulnerable. If they don't receive it, express they're not receiving it, and you have to leave.
Yeah.
Like that's just my philosophy on it, or that's just how I want to operate going forth. But I think that would help for you not to be caught up with somebody that's so detached that is pouring into you and making you depressed. And it's
Yeah.
the cycle, the cycle, cycle, the cycle. So Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think also I used to try to match energy or go above match energy. Like, oh, you want to come at a 5? Bet I'm gonna go to a 9 because I don't want you ever try this stuff with me again. We're gonna do this stuff one time. And like you said though, but that's not the energy I feel like I'm naturally in or that I want to be in. And it got draining. It got
Mhm.
draining.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think that's why I went to detachment because I'm like, I'm so tired of just having to do too much to prove points to folks. It's very exhausting. So then let me just detach. You just won't hear from me. I'm not gonna burn your car. You just gonna be blocked on everything. We're not gonna have a conversation. We're not gonna blah 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 blah. But it does something to you to keep being taken out of your personality.
Mhm. It
And
really does.
I think for a while it was just so promoted in our culture to be like, I want to be the one not to mess with. And I get that
Mhm.
because again, I definitely had a long phase of that. Like you gonna know not to mess with me. But it was so draining. It was draining and it was lonely. And it had a big, significant impact on my mental health. Cause now I gotta keep up this whole facade of like, yeah, rest crazy, rest gonna blah blah blah. And rest wanted love. Like rest wanted vulnerability. But like now I got a reputation to uphold. And that
Baby.
was an incredibly lonely time and that was incredibly satisfying. On top of that, it was dissatisfying because okay, now I got my lick back. I'm still not happy. When literally there was always the option of like, let me communicate where you got me fucked up. Let me start communicating that. Because also, let's be clear, why are we talking about not detaching, being vulnerable, having conversation, communication? Nobody says that you gotta be let people run over you.
No.
That's not at all what we're promoting. But it's like you're doing these things and I think at least for me personally I got to a point though where I was like okay but the point of me trying to form new bonds is I want to have meaningful, great, satisfying connections. And I'm not even doing that when I'm doing this detachment. I'm not doing that when I'm getting my look back. I'm not doing that. None of that is giving me those things. So while I'm just like, well, I'm gonna do this detachment thing, I'm gonna do this play it cool thing, I'm gonna do this, I could care less, I'm not gonna be vulnerable thing. It's just me building up bad experiences. And it got to the
Mhm.
point like I did, and I've talked about this on the show. I went through a 2 year celibacy where I didn't date, I didn't talk to nobody, I wasn't having sex, I wasn't blah 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 because I was so dissatisfied with the interaction. It was a couple of things for being a couple of things, but one of the biggest things was I was so dissatisfied with the interactions that I was having that I was like, well, why am I doing this at all? And I had to
Mhm.
stop and I had to do some self growth within myself. And it was really, really good for me. And it was really great. And I got to work out a lot of kinks of it. But also, one of those kinks I got to work out was, oh, because the way that I used to date did not promote actual bonding and growth. I was just meeting people, playing who doesn't care the most, building up this like feeling of well, love is not for me. And then with each new person, that built more and more and more. So, yeah, you can say you stay with a dude, but I was lonely because these
Mhm.
interactions weren't satisfying. And what's the point of that when I can be by myself and be happy?
Yeah. And you came back like good. Like you went through all the steps. So, like you came back like, I get it now. I was like, look at her.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I mean, you again, you and like one other person probably know me best out of anybody in the world and fully know all the stages of me and that I went through. And you were so encouraging. There would just be times I would do something like simple and I'd be like, they hurt my feelings, so I'm gonna go and communicate. Guess I'm gonna say like, hey, I did not like that you did that. This is how this made me feel. I need some time to process it. I don't think I can have a mature conversation about this right now, but I do want to express to you why it might seem I'm pulling back a little bit. If you can give me a couple days and we can come back and like have a conversation about this, I guess that's what I'm gonna say. You'll be like, I am so proud of you. You
I
go,
mean, but
girl. I love you so much. And I'll be like, okay, okay. I'm 29, Nique. You would be up there like, gold star. Look at you. Look at you. Sending me
but it
little
helped you. It
encouragements
helped.
throughout the day. Look at my little star using her communication skills. I went to school to practice communication skills, but now you use them. And I appreciate your support so much.
It helps you. It helps.
But yeah, so like it can create like a great feeling of loneliness and dissatisfaction. And what happens when all of my experiences with other people, when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I just felt lonely. I just felt dissatisfied. And then it starts again building up that like evidence in your head of like why I need to keep detaching, because it's not like I got rewarded, even though you were detached in those other situations, or you're dating people who are detached. And so it's not quite like you experience healthy love, but you're like, nah,
Mhm.
every time I did this, it just equals more this loneliness and dissatisfaction. So why put my efforts out there? I'm gonna be shallow. I'm gonna be non-committal. I'm a blah blah blah. And again, it just creates a cycle. And in order to break that cycle, somebody got to be the one that's like, okay, I'm going to communicate my feelings. I'm going to practice some vulnerability. And as we're talking about practice and vulnerability, like one of the biggest things I know, well, one, the research shows, but I also used and practiced with myself when I had to get out of this was learning to trust myself. And that helped me to learn to break down some of my walls with vulnerability. And trust me, there's still very much walls, but you know what? Now there's a little garden door that opens.
Mhm.
I still got walls that I am actively trying to break down. So it's a process. I'm not saying you gonna listen to this episode and then tomorrow you'll be good. No, it is a long process. But building up your self trust, and for me, that self trust was like I believe I have the ability to bounce back. I had to really focus on that for myself and really sit in that and trust that and believe that for myself in order for me to go out here and start being vulnerable. Because I know for me, my fear around being vulnerable was like, but what if this knocks me down? What if I go out here and really give my all in love? I'm a jokester and I laugh a lot and so forth. But when I'm actually like in love, I actually do love very deep and passionate. There's a different side of me. That Scorpio moon definitely comes out. I get very, very intense. I can be very, very intense in my personal life, depending on what bonds I'm in. And so it was always a fear for me because I'm like, no, because if you open up that side, you know how intense you can get. And what if you can't come back from that?
Yeah.
And what if it hurts you so bad that like you never want to love again? And I had to tell myself, you've been hurt before and you always manage to survive after. You have been hurt and you have went through some real traumatic painful stuff and you still manage to get back up. You have to trust that. And also you have to trust that not everything is going to be this drag out knocked down, but if it is, you can get back up. And I think are so fearful of the but what if it hurts part that we steer ourselves away from the but what if it's amazing, what if this is the best thing that ever happened in my life.
And you don't give you a chance to feel that, or you don't get yourself the chance to experience that
Yeah.
because of, cut down all the walls and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you build up that self trust and you can build up, like, okay, do I trust myself to be able to bounce back from that? Because here's the thing while we're saying, like, okay, but even if I know I can bounce back, I don't want to do the pain at all. Life is going to have pain. You got to get over that. Life is going to have pain because also there's a certain type of pain that comes from being lonely. There's a certain kind of pain that comes from not allowing someone to love you, not allowing yourself to experience love and happiness. And so now you're just choosing your pain.
Mhm.
And as someone who has experienced both, the one where you choose loneliness, you choose not to engage, not work on these bonds and stuff, that one hurts deeper because that one lingers longer.
Yeah, it definitely does. And then I think, like, too, like me, I would always have a fear of rejection. It could be from friends, it could be from men. So it's just like I just want to put myself out there because I'm scared of being rejected. But growing up, like I said before, like 35 was like I'm alive now. Like it's just
Right.
like I'm opening it up. It's just like if the rejection happens, that's okay. I have my
Yeah.
answers. But before I just didn't want to hear it, I just didn't want to feel it. But I like this year, I'm 36 now, but like last year, well, beginning of this year, before I turned 36, I was going through a lot of isolation and feeling like rejected. But I wasn't talking about my feelings to those people who bothered me or talking about my feelings like maybe to the guy that I was dating. But then I'm like, I came to the conclusion, like, we could just talk this out, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's fine. And it's more of a freeing feeling to know that I had the conversation and got my answers than holding so much in, and it's just going in circles in my head,
Yeah.
like, because we always, I mean, not always, but me, I always think about like the most extreme negative instead of,
Mhm.
but what about this extreme positive? And this could be it. And you will be okay. And like you were saying, one is better to be hurt is better than to isolate and give all this negativity in your head. It's more draining, and
Mhm.
it's more draining. You don't get no sleep. It's exhausting. It's more exhausting than just putting yourself out there. You might get rejected, you might get hurt, but you have your answers and you don't have to dwell on it, or you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ooh, yep. But I think, even as we're talking about this and we're talking about love, I think we also need to bring it into like this can also be in friendships as well. Again, when you have a culture of indifference, it affects the development and maintenance of just bonds in general. Because I know people who had whole friendships for 5, 6, 8 years, and they're starting to do something that gets on their nerves or annoy them, and they will just like end the whole friendship instead of trying to talk this out and work things out and work those things through. And you're like, yo, that was your road dog for you. Why not even give it a chance? And don't get me wrong, there are certain offenses that I do agree with that I'm just like, no, automatically. Y'all, I saw a TikTok. This was like last year though. I saw a TikTok of a woman who like best friend slept with her fiance or something like that. And she was like, I kept the bestie, but I lost the man. Both of y'all will see over us. Me and my therapist gonna talk about it later. But there's certain offenses that I'm like, yeah, no, 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 no. Because you knew what she was doing, homegirl. But no, because she's my best friend and blah, blah. Girl. The way I don't even I'm, anyways, no. So there's certain things I get, but sometimes these are like little things. Sometimes these are just like emotional growth stones through friendships. Me and Nique have been friends for over a decade. I think me and you've been friends for what, like 13 years now?
Mhm.
13, 14 years now. And we have had moments in our relationship and our friendship where it's just like, I need a break. Or like, she's doing too much or whatever it is, and having to walk through it or talk through it or like give each other space and being like, okay, she is going through a thing or I'm going through a thing, or even being like, hey, recognizing that this is not about me. I know me and you have
Mhm.
both went through seasons of like depression, and like usually no matter what, me and you are each other's anchor of like, even when we going through stuff, if anything, I'm always going to do a check-in with you. My
Yeah.
mom so badly wants my location turned on my phone to her, and I refuse to because I be out here doing stuff I don't want to explain. But but I always tell her like, Benique always has my location. Like if you ever, and she hates it. She hates it. What if there's an emergency? I gotta call Johnny. Yes, yes, you do.
And she will call me.
And she has called you.
Exactly.
What was I doing? Because you did tell me one time like, your
I
mom
don't
was
know.
looking
You
for
just
you.
wasn't even doing that. They just didn't want to be bothered. And then I
Yeah,
was like, girl, just call this lady back. You was just in your room, in your corner, in your own little corner, in your own little chair. Not want to be
yeah,
bothered. And then I'm like, you wasn't even being bothered with me, honestly. But you
yeah,
looked at the message and I said, just call your mom. Just call
yeah.
your mom.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. I very much because yeah. I got cussed out. Like, why don't I have your location? I was like, look, woman, look, I'm a pastor's kid. I don't like explaining too much. Anywho, you have both had moments of like depression, and usually me and you are each person's check-in, even if it's just like I ain't heard from her in like 3 days. Let me check in to make sure she's good. Hey, I'm good. I don't feel like talking to folks. Cool. And being able to like have those moments and do that. But you don't get to a 10-year plus friendship if you don't give each other grace, if you don't give each other communication, if you can't allow yourself to take yourself out of the equation, go, maybe this is not about me. And having to like not take it personal. Because I know me, you have both talked about this. I have had friends that take it very personal when I go through my seasons of like, y'all, I just give me space and like take it very very personal. And you have to give your friends grace, you have to give them communication in order to build those type of loving, can stand the test of time type of friendships and bonds with folks. You have to do those steps. It can't always be, well, she been acting funny for 4 months, so boom, end it, I don't even need this anymore. Is she going through something?
It has nothing to do at all with you, but it does go back to communication because before it did bother me because I didn't know you that well.
Yeah.
But I did still give you grace because it's just like, I don't know her, so I ain't about to approach her either.
Let me butt in real quick, guys, just to give you guys background. Coming back when I was younger, especially like I told y'all, I used to use isolation. I used to use detachment as like my coping skill. When me and Nique first met, I was like 19 years old. I'm 33 now. I used to go on disappearing sprees on everybody. You could be my boyfriend, you could be my mama, you can be my friend. I would disappear on you. And I would do this for like 2 weeks at a time where I would just like not talk. I would not reply to messages. I wouldn't text nobody. I wouldn't call nobody back. Me and Nique had whole classes together and I would show up to class and just not talk. And because again, I really struggled with emotional regulation, especially in my early teens, early 20s. And so, again, the way I learned was either you go to the extreme or you shut all the way down. And at that point, it was like, well, I can't keep going to the extreme. Let me shut all the way down. And so I would just go on disappearing spells where I just would not communicate with folks. So, just to give you out a history, that's what she's talking about.
Yes, it didn't. But at the beginning, like I said, I was giving you grace because I didn't quite know you. But I don't really think I even spoke up. But then I was like, this is just her. So I just like, yeah, it is what it is. But as we got older, I asked like, girl, why you always used to do that? And then we just talked through it. And that was that made it better. It's like, because I was like, okay, I understand now. But I'm saying if we didn't have these conversations or we didn't
Mhm.
give people space to do that, those things are just like, forget it. And like, we would never have got here, but it was just like giving space to talk through those things and ask your questions. But I definitely asked, but it was just later. But
Yeah. I appreciate so much that you gave me grace because people used to get mad at me so much, and I'll just be like, I'm here now.
yeah,
What you want to do? Especially back
yeah,
there.
because
I
we
didn't
had
feel
the
like
whole
I
stuff.
didn't think I had to explain stuff to folks. I'm like, I'm here now. What now? What? What?
You didn't.
I did.
I'm just a nice person. Like that was just the problem because like we had the other friend that we have to, and I was like, just leave it alone. Like you want to do something with me and you because she ain't coming. So just like I started.
And knowing me during that phase of my life was interesting. It's interesting me even looking back. I'll be like, yeah, trauma, man,
Mhm,
unprocessed trauma.
mhm.
Um, but no, and I appreciate that. One of the things I'm big on is like I like to do cost analysis, especially like my friendships. I don't like to do things that hurt people without a purpose. And what I mean by that is like if there is like a conversation or somebody is doing something that kind of annoys me, I try to do the cost analysis of like, okay, is me speaking up and saying this, is this going to create positive change? Like, are they going to be like, oh, yeah, I didn't know that. And could it move to something positive happening, a change happening, even if we don't be friends, even if they're like mad at me for saying it, but then they could take that and be a better person after, then fine. I'm like, yep, that's worth it. I'll speak up. But there are some things that are just mean and cruel. I have another friend, we had this conversation. They completely disagree. They're like, no, you got to say your piece. You got to speak. And I'm like, no, I don't like hurting people without cause. Like, for example, if there's just something innate, like if I think your face is annoying, what is the purpose of me telling you got a really annoying face? You just got a punchable face. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, ain't nobody slapped her yet. Like, what positive can what can come out of that? They can't change their oh, you can. But like for most people, they can't change their face. That's the face they
Yeah,
were born with. So I'm really big on doing that cost analysis of like, okay, if I have to have this hard conversation and I have to say this thing, is it just going to be hurtful and it does nothing but sit there and cause hurt? Or can it lead to something constructive? And I'm really, really big on that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing with vulnerability. The more you practice it, the easier it's going to be. Practice that stuff in your friendships. If you're like, well, I don't have a partner or I'm not really dating and so forth, practice that in your friendship. Practice that in the bonds that you're having. Are we practicing vulnerability in other spaces as well? I know, like, I practice vulnerability with Nique all the time. Nique is probably the person I use the most when I want to be vulnerable. I know even recently, like, I had something happen over my birthday where someone had really disappointed me and kind of just like really let me down. And I was really, really hurt about it. And I remember I called Nique and I called Nique crying. I was like, I am so hurt by this thing. This is a thing that really hurt me. This is a thing I'm experiencing. And I expressed to her, like, dang, sometimes I feel like because I don't open up a lot and because when things happen or I have things that disappoint me, sometimes I was like, I feel like I have built up in people's head that, oh, I don't have to put the extra effort in for rest because rest is cool. Like it don't matter. Rest just rolls things off the shoulder. By the way, and that's another thing going back to that detachment, talking about also you build up experiences where you keep having the same repeated pattern. And so it encourages you to stay detached. But also, when you don't communicate and so forth, sometimes you are teaching people how to treat you. When you are the person that just automatically detach and you're like, dang, why does this keep happening? But are you teaching people to treat you that way? Because I had to recognize that as well of like, dang, because when things do disappoint me, I usually don't make a big deal about it. I kind of just figure it out myself. I go into hyper independence, like whatever, I'll do it alone. And I did that a lot for a lot of years. And so when I was talking to Nique, I did. I broke down and I was just like, I feel like people feel like they don't have to put the extra effort in for me. I was like, I'm tired of seeing people bend over backwards for others. And I'm always there. I'm always supportive. I'm always over adjusting myself for the people that I love. And I feel like I don't get that same back. And I didn't have to have the realization though of like, yeah, because you don't make that a need. You don't make people have to because when they disappoint you, you just like, I'm cool. And then you go into hypervigilant mode and you do things yourself. And even though you're feeling these things, they don't know that. And
at
then
all.
after time, if I have an 8-year friendship where things come up and I'm disappointed, but you're like, oh, huh, that rolls over. After a while, people start treating you like you're not emotional. And so then when it's come time to like do things that might be inconvenient for them, they're like, well, since it doesn't bother us, I'm gonna just do this. And so I had to have that. And Nique was very supportive. She was very much there for me. And she definitely stepped up and she helped me with that situation. And I greatly, greatly appreciate that. But also in that conversation, you also helped me realize, like, also, did you say how much that disappointed you? I was like, no. And I took time. I had to decompress. I definitely needed to not have that conversation in. But I was able to go back and be like, yo, this really hurt me. And this is why. I don't want you to think you can just do whatever and it doesn't affect me. It really greatly affected me. And me and that friend were able to work it through. In the moment at first, initially my first response was like, and I'm done and I'm cool. And I took a deep breath and I was like, no, I can't do that. Well, how do I process it? And being able to go back and have a conversation and explore that with them was such a great and freeing moment for me.
Because that person would have never known. And then if you
Mhm.
did the ghosting, it's just like not only because you allowed it, because you just shut down when
Mhm.
things hurt you, she could keep continue this cycle.
As we're talking about like the downfall of intimacy and promoting indifference, again, when you do that, you're teaching folks how to treat you. If I keep this charade up, like I'm not vulnerable, I'm not the person that has communication, blah, 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 then that's how people would treat you. Like, oh, they don't care. And
Mhm.
since they don't care, I'm gonna treat them like they don't care. If they're indifferent, then why step up and do extra mile things? This is a person that don't really care about that, and blah blah. And again, you're teaching people how to treat you. And what a lot of us actually want is love, is bonds, is great companionship, and so forth. Then how am I getting that if everything I promote and give off to them is I don't care?
Yeah, yeah,
You are playing a very risky game by trying to do that whole indifference thing instead of moving towards authenticity, that vulnerability, that's openness, that is, okay, I'm going to try to build something meaningful here, which means like I'm going to use communication, which means I'm going to open up, which means I am going to make efforts. I'm going to pay attention to the things that they like. I am going to be intentional with the things that I am doing. You
yeah.
cannot do that while also trying to be detached. It just doesn't work.
Not at all. Not at all.
So it just leaves us in this paradox of having more ways to connect with people, but still feeling less connected. And I don't know about you, but that is a whole different type of loneliness to me. I have definitely been in places and spaces, but also in relationships where I am with a person and feel incredibly, incredibly alone. And for some people, it's like, I'd rather have a person than nothing at all. But for me, at least, and I think a lot of times when I'm talking to folks, even when folks who are saying that, when you really break it down, it's like, it's not. That is even more draining because at least when I'm alone, I don't have to wonder about why I'm not enough for them. I don't have to wonder about why they won't open up to me, but they open up to their best friend.
Mhm.
I don't have to wonder
Mhm.
why. How did you move all the way to engagement with that last person within 6 months, and we've been talking for
That's a
for 2
yeah.
years, and And I'm not I can't even get you to have proper communication when we're having a disagreement over why you bought the wrong cereal. Like, it's a lonely existence. So even though we're having more ways to connect, is it does it matter if we're still feeling less connected, or if we're still feeling disconnected in a room full of folks? If we're feeling
Mhm.
disconnected while having a partner who we don't communicate with, who we don't let in, and who doesn't let us in either.
See, I'm
Uh,
not really,
no,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
really about being with somebody who I don't feel communicated with. If I feel alone, it's just like, yeah, we really shouldn't do this. But I mean, I prolonged stuff for so long, so I'm trying to not have that prolonged period. But I have been there before, and it's just like a waste of time. Like, I'm not getting any fulfillment once I leave. So it's just like this just not a waste of time. Like that's just not. So,
Yeah. So it's essentially what we're trying to say is this game of who can care less is driving us towards loneliness, is driving us towards feeling unfulfilled in our bonds, in our relationships. And when you are sitting back and you are feeling like, dang, maybe something's wrong with me, maybe I just need to be alone, I'm put in this planet to have nobody. Check in with yourself. Am I moving towards authenticity when I am connecting with folks? Or am I trying to connect with folks with a guarded shield around me? And is that really what the problem is? Is it not that I am
mhm,
unlovable? Is it that I won't let anyone love me? Vulnerability and openness is needed to build meaningful relationships. And the way that you do that is you communicate. You express your vulnerability and your openness with actions. When we're saying with actions, that is that, okay, yeah, I might be scared of getting hurt, but I really like this person. And so far, this person's actions line up with what they're saying. And so I am going to put my effort into this. I'm not giving them 10%. I'm not giving them 50. But when I'm like, this is a person I'm going to make it work with, then I'm going to do the things to make it work. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to be open and honest about the things that I feel. I'm going to practice forgiveness. I'm going to practice also knowing that people aren't perfect and that every mess up is not the means to move immediately to, well, let me end that and let's start it with somebody new. There are
mhm,
situations where, yep, that does need to happen. And he definitely practices that in those situations. But if we are starting off with people who are saying that we're wanting to love, we want to get close to, and so forth, you can't do that and also put 6 foot wall between y'all. You're either
yeah,
going to decide that this is what I want, and so I'm going to do the things that are required to do, or I'm going to sit here alone in my loneliness and alone in my detachment and recognize that I am the person being the biggest cause of this.
mhm. And what am I going to do about this? Yeah.
So we encourage you guys to reflect on your own behaviors and your relationship dynamics. Also, reflect on the behaviors of those we are dating. Because while we did a lot of reflection on self, also recognize when you are dating someone who is just still playing that who could care less game. Do you have to deal with that? If someone is telling you, you got to earn me, why can't I show up authentically and we see if that match, and then we move at a pace that feels comfortable for the both of us? Why are you setting up a whole emotional minefield for me to go through?
Mhm.
I ain't the one who hurt you.
Yes, I don't deserve the pain, you know.
Hmm.
So recognize that too. Recognize that too when you are dating, so that their detachment issues or their things that they're going through won't affect you in the end. And then they just move along and keep detaching, and you're left to pick up the pieces and rebuild and start all over again. So just recognize that too as you're doing your own self work. Recognize what's around you and how others operate as well.
Yeah. I think it's hard too, especially when it feels like everybody else is out here moving attached. But somebody has to be the start of the love movement. And I feel like, why not let it be us? Why not let it be you? So
Yeah.
we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy, or on TikTok. Maybe if we still have a TikTok. TikTok been being real weird with us lately. So we'll see. We'll see. She Wolf Alchemy podcast. We'll have a new episode for you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Please like and share. Leave a review. Leave a review with words wherever you are listening. And we want to say thanks again. Bye.
Bye.